What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to YGOPD, Yu-Gi-Oh! Professional Development, and I am very excited to bring you a Ghoti Earthbound Runick deck profile post-Phantom Nightmare. I shared this a little bit in the Runick group and the Earthbound group and the Ghoti group, actually, and hinted to it yesterday. Ironically enough, it was kind of hard to get these cards. Shout out to one of my boys that hooked me up. 2 out of 3 of the locals in my area actually did not get their shipment for Phantom Nightmare. I don't know if anyone else experienced that, so finding a locals that could play post-Phantom Nightmare, or at least I was willing to, but also didn't have product, was a little bit tough. But regardless, I think this is going to be a really solid road contender, and for a lot of people, maybe a go-to that don't want to play Runick Bestial, given Quem itself is about almost the price of this whole deck. If you want to play 3, Quem's sitting, I think, about 43 bucks right now market price, and this whole main and extra deck is going to run you right around $150, depending on, the rarities and things that you choose, but average, that's about what it'll do. So a reasonable price, I think, compared to the $1,200 Snake Eye Fire King meta nonsense that's happening. So I don't want to take too much time. Sorry, I'm losing my voice. I'm really excited to share this. I'll go through the main deck, the extra deck, and then I'll showcase the combo of how this whole thing works and it's brought together. I'm just really excited to talk about this, so let's get into it. Okay, we'll go ahead and start with the main deck here. Like I said, we're playing 3 Stone Sweeper. The Earthbound cards are all starters. If you saw my last Earthbound build, I didn't really want to do things back to back, but I was not a fan of Earthbound Runick because when you opened Earthbound by itself, there wasn't really something it could do on its own, and same thing with Runick. You just are playing just Runick, and that's not great if you see either or. So I kind of took it in a different direction, and essentially the long story short is the new Ghoti stuff, any way to either the new level 6 Ghoti or a level 6 Synchro generically, is full Ghoti combo that leads to a banish on your opponent's field plus a full board wipe with follow-up on your turn. So these all facilitate it. They lock you into Synchro Infusions, but that doesn't matter because that's all you do. So it's just 3 Stone Sweeper and 3 Groundskeeper, and that's it. Stone Sweeper adds this. This specials back the Groundkeeper from, the Stone Sweeper from either deck or grave. So that's it. Just 6 starters that get you to a level 6 Synchro. For the Ghotis, it's going to look weird, and I'm sorry to the Ghoti community. You're not playing a ton of names, but the full deck, all it does is the Ghoti stuff. So I'm hoping that this concept will make up for that. So we're on 2 of the Moonlight. I'll talk about this for a second. This is the new one. If you've not seen this, it's insane. It does like a million things by itself. On normal or special, it can add a Ghoti from deck to hand and then banish a Ghoti from your hand. So you can essentially banish the same thing you add, similar to like Emergency with Rescue Ace. You contribute the same thing that you summon. That's important. The secondary effect is if it's banished, you can banish a fish from hand, field, or grave and then summon it back, which also triggers that first effect. So how you're doing that is you're going to trigger, I think, at least that both effects on your turn and then both effects on your opponent's turn, because it really just cycles through everything on its own. And the cool thing is, again, this on normal summon is still full combo. So if your hand is awkward with just this, you can summon a Runick name, search Fountain, and then tribute Hugin to actually just regular normal summon this and then do everything from there. So after that, we play 2 Shift and 1 Zep, and that's it. The 5 Ghoti names. Everything in here is super searchable because you're making level 6 synchros like crazy, and the level 6 synchro for Ghoti gets everything online. So you have 6 1-card starters through the Earthbound that are all tuners, so that's already 6 ways, plus any of these Ghotis plus a Runick gets you there as well. So you have 5 additional ways here, not counting cards like Duality and stuff that we'll get into later. But Zap is necessary for the combo to get the second synchro on your opponent's turn. You typically make the 8 and then the 10, or this deck now has the ability to do 2 8s, so you could do Ascan and then White Aura Whale if you want to save your Fountain and keep it on the board, which is actually really good. Paces you could play, the other ones you could play, but you don't really need them. The priority is tuners, and Shift is just the better normal summon in this variant between both Paces and Shift, just because Shift can then synchro into something and banish itself, right? And then trigger and then come back, whereas for Paces to do that, you have to have another name in rotation. So that's it for the Ghotis. In the Earthbounds, that's pretty much your full set of starters. The only other card that's kind of, I guess, in line with that a little bit is 3 Duality. If we can focus there we go. This card is insane in this deck particularly, just because everything is, again, more like there's less steps to the combo that Bestial Runick would have, so you don't have to worry about getting names in rotation as quickly or having a second name to pair, because the Runick is typically going to be the light, and then you can have a second Runick as the dark in the form of either Jerry or just using one of the Earthbound names to shuffle back and draw. I think after testing and playing this at a smaller local event, I would probably cut one of these out. The amount of times I drew Duality into Duality was insane. The amount of times I saw two Duality in this was also kind of ridiculous. So you could cut this back, but I think this card is really, really good and still insane, not enough to at least play at 2. It just does so much for the deck. And then after that, for my Runick enjoyers, we have 2 Fountain, and then the rest of the deck, I kid you not, is all Runicks. So if you saw, Joshua Schmidt talking about Bestial Runick, and probably a similar mindset to most Runick players, is the reason that, you struggle is you don't see enough of them. And in this deck, you're using them as bodies to synchro much more aggressively and consistently, so you want a lot of things in rotation. There were a lot of hands where I would see like a Runick or a second Runick and then like replace it with either Instant Fusion or Talents or a Hand Trap or whatever. And I was just like, I'd rather just have another name. Like, I already have Duality, I already have a tuner. Like, I just want to keep climbing. I just want to get the 3rd draw off Fountain instead of 2 draws. So that's where we took the direction with this, and I've been very happy with it. And it's also a very aggressive style then to, if you want to go into deck out, you can do that. And the fact that, like, sometimes you have hands with 5 Runick names is enough. Whereas sometimes if you just saw, like, 3 Runick names, you can't really play through boards. And now you have the freedom to use Runicks as both disruption and draw power because you play so many of them. So 3 tip, and it's just essentially 3 of every single quick play. 3 of the Destruction, which is the MST, 3 Flashing Fire, which is the special summon pop, 3 Freezing Curses, which is the Imperm, 3 Slumber, which is the protection, 3 Golden Droplet. This is, I think, the one where they draw 1 and then banish the top 4. This one I almost always use just for the summon specifically. I don't ever use the other effect or as a discard right off Hugin. Dispelling is actually kind of crazy. The one where they add a card from deck to hand, it discards a random card, then they banish the top 2, if I'm remembering that correctly. That might be confusing that. No, that's right. And then the last one is just 3 Smiting Storm. This is the one where you banish cards from the top of their deck equal to the ones they control. So I guess the general consensus, right, is that these are the quote-unquote worst ones are Dispelling, Golden Droplet, and Smiting Storm are kind of the 3 awkward ones. But I think they're great in this deck. Like, it just does so much, and it's just so free to have a million names in rotation to keep drawing and drawing and drawing, and it helps you dig too if you really need to. So being able to do that aggressively, especially when we're moving into decks right now that aren't respecting things like Unicorn and Buzz King that already rip one of combo pieces from the extra deck, doing that to the main deck for things like Flamberge and Garunix and all that stuff is really powerful as well. So for the extra deck, I'll start with the 10s. 1 Baron and 1 Deep Beyond. You could play 2. Good thing Baron is accessible now just because of the recent reprint from the Rarity Collection. Deep Beyond banishes the whole board when it's summoned on your opponent's turn, gains 500 attack for each banished monster in total, and then comes back during the next standby phase. One of the ways that you do win the grind game is Baron control. You get to a simplified game state after you wipe their board, and then you're typically bouncing Baron back to get a level 8 of choice from your grave in rotation. Come on. There we go. That you already synchroed with, and then just recurring that shift that comes back every turn to remake Baron. So if you're in a weird state where you need to wipe out what little things they have, you're typically getting a pop and a negate with Baron every turn because you just recycle it each time, which is really, really good. And then the 8s, we have 1 White Aura Whale. This card is really solid, along with 2 of the Oscon. You can play... I think the one thing I'd noticed as I was starting to test more and more was you needed more level 8s. Having just 1 and 1 of each, you burn through everything so quick that sometimes it is just not enough. So I'm not sure what's going on with my autofocus. There we go. But White Aura Whale is just a Raigeki for attack position monsters. On the turn, it's special summon, which is really good. It's a when effect, which means you have to either hard synchro it or summon it off a Ghoti that is chain link 1 specifically, meaning the synchro summon is the last thing to happen, so it won't miss timing. Oscon is pretty insane one. It banishes itself to banish a face-up card on the field, well, any fish, and then can bring itself back. This is kind of one of the main playmakers for the extra, so you do want to. Unfortunately, White Aura Whale is one of the pricier cards right now. It's about like $15 bucks. And then the other expensive piece of the deck is Excel Synchro. This is included when I said, hey, about 150 bucks. This is included in that. The market price, I think, for this has fallen a good bit. But you don't need this. It's just nice enough to have when you kind of get multi-hand trapped. You can still like synchro into up to an 8 yourself and then get back like Shift or something like that. And then just make a Baron if you really, really need to. So I think the option is nice, but is not the be all end all. If you don't have one, you could just play some other card in place of it if you want as an extra deck slot. And then two of the star of the show now, Earthbound, not new, but the Ghoti level 6 synchro that is now full combo anyway to it because of the new support. I'll get into that in a bit. One Stardust Charge Warrior. This could be Coral Dragon. I've just found in playing that the non-tuner with the draw comes up a lot more than the tuner does just because of how you play the deck and all the level 2s you have are already tuners in rotation. And then for the Runics, we play one Frecky, one Jerry, one Munin to start things off. These are all important because, again, your goal is to get to a level 6. So any level 2 Ghoti tuner plus Jerry gets you there. Munin is just kind of a necessary piece for time. If you don't like it or need an extra slot, you could side this, but a lot of people, when they see you're playing Runick, can also try to slow you down by not committing a lot to the board, right? That's kind of that old sci-frame mindset. So having a utility tool like this is important. And then Freaky is a level 5 non-tuner that works with the level 1 tuner Earthbound Groundkeeper to, again, make the level 6 synchro. And then rounding out the extra deck, we have the 2 Hugin and the 1 Alvain for the Duality targets. I can actually call out just a couple other slots if you're interested that I think I had lying around here. Yeah, just two. I was originally playing one of the Sleipnir, but I've decided to cut it. The reason I did was this paired with Groundkeeper was a Baron, which is great, but again, that doesn't get you combo, that doesn't move your place forward. So most of the time I found myself prioritizing summoning the Frecky as the level 5, should Groundkeeper get impermed. I'd rather go for the full combo line than just Sleipnir for Baron pass and hope it's enough. So that's kind of why this card kind of came out. And then another card I'm just experimenting with that I've not decided to put in yet is the Spear here. This guy is not bad. It's just I've not found so much use for it to the point where I just kind of want the second Oscon instead of that variety of names. But you can play around with it and see what you think. So that's the main deck. That's the extra deck. And then I'll go ahead and just showcase the combo utilizing the Earthbound as the starters. But again, just keep in mind you can do the same thing with any Runick plus a level 2 tuner Ghoti or the level 6 Ghoti normal summon. There's any myriad of ways you can do it. So I'll get this laid out and we'll get started. Okay, so for the Earthbound combo piece here, I guess I'll try to zoom out just a touch more. Sorry if you see some stuff in the background. We're kind of in the process of moving, so there's going to be a lot more junk than there normally is around here. But either one of these work. I'll just use the Stone Sweeper as the example. So to start the combo off, you're going to ditch the Stone Sweeper, and then you're going to add the Groundkeeper. From here, you just normal the Groundkeeper. You can either get the Stone Sweeper from grave or from deck, depending on how much you want to deck thin. I'm just going to get it from grave because it's right here. Then you'll synchro both of those off, and you'll make a copy of the Earthbound for Ghoti. This card on summon triggers lets you banish a level 6 or lower fish from your deck. So you're going to banish 1 Moonlight. That's important why we play 2, so you always have 1 to be able to banish off this effect. And then Moonlight's effect will trigger, and this is going to look atypical, I think, to some Ghoti players, but you banish the Earthbound to summon itself back, and then on summon, it can then add a Ghoti and banish a Ghoti. So you're going to add the Shift, banish the Shift, and that's it. It doesn't look like much, but I'll show you what plays happen on your opponent's turn. And keep in mind, we still have 4 other cards in rotation if we get hand trapped to get other tuners or non-tuners on the board through Duality or Runick or different things like that to continue playing with the combo. So on your opponent's turn, Shift comes back, and then what you do is you synchro these 2 off into an 8. So you're going to make the Oscon. That's almost always what you're going to do. To spot remove a specific face-up card your opponent has, it will banish itself and their card. Because it was banished, you can use its effect to banish a Ghoti from grave to bring itself back. So you're going to banish the level 6. This comes back. Because the new level 6 was banished, it triggers. You can banish the little Shift from your grave, bring it back. Then the level 6 then triggers to banish and add and banish a Ghoti from your deck to your hand and then banish. So the important thing to note is, hey, what happens if I open the Zep? You search a different Ghoti, which is why we play a second Shift, and then you could just banish the Zep that you open. So the play doesn't matter even if you hard open the brick as the Zep, just to clarify that. But then you would banish Zep. Zep's effect would trigger and then would come back. And now Zep's effect to quick synchro happens, and then you just have two options. You either can do an 8 with these two for White Aura Whale, which is again a Raigeki for face-up attack position monsters on your opponent's board. Come on now. Autofocus, please. Okay, come on. There we go. You might see a cut. Autofocus was being weird there, or I might just leave it in because whatever. And then the other option, if you don't want to do White Aura Whale, is using the Shift with the Oscon to make Deep Beyond and banish the whole board. I think it really just depends on if you have a second fountain in your hand already in rotation, if you already have a fountain on board that you would rather keep and prioritize. You can do a lot of different things like that. Sometimes if I know I have to do this no matter what, then what I will do is chain all of the runics in my hand with like the fountain on board. And then after the Synchro Summon resolves in a new chain, I'll just do Deep Beyond as Chain Link 1 and Fountain as Chain Link 2 to still get my draw 3 before I wipe the board. But again, prioritizing keeping Fountain is important. That's why White Aura Whale is such an insane option that we can go into now in addition to doing Oscon. So that's the basic combo. The same thing happens. I guess I'll just talk about the variants really quick just because I know a couple people might be interested. The same thing happens if you have a Runick on board. A Runick extra deck monster that is, and just the level 6. What you can essentially do is tribute summon over it by getting rid of this, and then the combo is pretty much the exact same from there. You can just, it's a little bit different, but you're going to add Shift, banish Shift, and then Shift comes back, and then you can start doing the Oscon plays again from there. So that's another way you can do it. Similarly, again, for if you just have like a Runick name, after you do the Fountain, draw 3, or if you don't have that, you just want to prioritize comboing, again, you could just normal the Shift and then use these two as a level 6 to make Arion Post to kind of play from there too. So there's just so many different ways you can do it, but it's insanely consistent. Any way to a level 6 is essentially that full Ghoti combo where you have a Banish with Oscon plus either the board wipe with Deep Beyond or the Raigeki with White Aura Whale. So that's it. That's Runick Ghoti Earthbound. Let me know what you guys think. I'm super hyped for this. I'm definitely going to be running this back at locals for a few weeks now post Phantom Nightmare. It feels really good that we're finally in the new format and that staleness is gone. So let me know what you all think, and I'll see you all in the next one. Later.